Welcome back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle.morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
I'm Shelly Walters with FC Tucker and the Shelly Walters Realty Group.
Yeah, so we're going to go over kind of like November as a whole, especially we're like coming off Thanksgiving, like just not a lot goes on the market or whatever.
Well, it was actually surprising how busy Thanksgiving week was.
It was. And this week also. Yeah. But we just kind of want to go over like that as a whole. I know next week we're going to kind of do like a reflection back to like 2020 as well.
And I hope Brad's coming on of my board. He's going to give us his
stats.
He's so good. He's a stat mind.
But I just want to argue with him. Because like I just see different stats.
You can't argue with the past stats.
I know. Well, the problem you have too is like he has to look at a much bigger data set than we do. And so that data set is accurate. It's just it's not accurate when you start to extrapolate it into smaller segments because each area performs differently.
Well, that was like when we had IAR doing the state. I mean, like when you're supposed to do listings and do the market analysis, you stay in the neighborhood. Yeah. And that's why Zillow doesn't work.
It doesn't. I've dealt with that like a couple weeks ago when we were listing a house and it was like, it says this. And I was like, well, like I just pulled the stats and I have like plenty in your neighborhood to comp this house off of. Yeah. Or like I don't need to go outside of the neighborhood.
But Zillow is God to so many people. But the market analysis they do, or what you want to call it, is based on general perception of a house, 5-bedroom, 2 baths, whatever, in all of states or anything. I don't know what their algorithm is, but it is not done by a professional in the same neighborhood you live in. So but they're not believe in Zillow.
But they're not the only ones, right? Like you got Realtor.com, you've got Remind, you got all these other things, and like you still have to do the legwork as an agent, in my opinion. I mean, Zillow's a brokerage now, right? So like I don't want to say anything disparaging because I will say this, like I honestly think Zillow has the best user-friendly interface when it comes to
everybody
mobile.
Goes there.
But it's everybody a thing. So people scroll through Zillow like it's social media, right? And so like I don't discourage people from using it. A, because I wouldn't say something disparaging about another brokerage, but B, like for consumption of houses on the market, like exclude the data. It is the best interface, in my opinion. It just is.
You know how we set up searches for all of our buyers to look and everything, and they're getting everything the day they hit, the minute they hit, all that stuff, exactly what they asked for. Mm-hmm. And I'll get a text, I want to see this house, and they send me the Zillow link. Yep. I mean, they're so attached to
You got Zillow, you got Realtor, you got Homes.com. The other problem is they're going to be quicker than I can ever be. Like there's just I can't sit there nonstop and just look for every house that's available for every single person. You just can't. Like it's just you don't have that kind of time.
Do you have that search coming to you, including theirs, and so you see them when they hit?
Do I? Some of my team does. I do not. In here, I'm going to catch crap about this, but I don't care. So, first of all, it's a consumption level for me personally because I'm looking at houses all day, every day anyways. So I'm looking at what would fit for the most part. The other problem I have, and I know you can relate to this. So you sit down with a client and they're like, we want this, this, and this, right? And that evolves and changes as you go to look at houses. How many times have you sold somebody a house and you're like, hey, like this isn't even in the ballpark of what we were looking for? They're like, you wanted a townhome. This is in like Sheridan on farmland, right? Like that happens. And I have to give a client that ability to evolve and change and kind of like, hey, we thought we wanted this, but we actually want this. And if I am the sole provider of all of that information, then they will get pigeonholed, and I don't think that's fair to them to grow as a client and to see what they actually do want or what else is available, or et cetera, especially when you're talking about over the past couple of years, it's been very difficult to find what people want sometimes because price point has gone up or whatever it may be. And so now it's like, hey, we want this and we want it in Fishers. And it's like, well, what about Fortville? Does Fortville work?
Right, yes.
You know,
or Noblesville even. I mean, Fishers and Noblesville can switch. A lot of people always say no Carmel because I just can't do it Carmel. And I'm like, it's actually comparable to Fishers in price. It's comparable to Zionsville, Westfield. They're all comparable.
Yeah.
And people are, or the people that call from out of state and have to be in Carmel, and then you have to introduce them to why maybe they should branch out. So sometimes it does help very much to give your opinion because of your
100%.
expertise of what you do know and don't know. Because I think maybe some agents are afraid to. Oh, you want to be in Fishers from 3 to 400? Okay, I'll send those to you.
That's all you look at.
Yeah.
But I will, when we go to look at something, like I will absolutely be like, hey, just remember this is what we're looking for, like this. And so like it's a fluid conversation of like why it's pivoted, or we have to bring them back in to like what they want. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right, we do need the loft area, whatever it may be. I had somebody, we were talking about this earlier. Like I had somebody, and we were looking 2 to 230, right? 200,000 to 230,000, and it's a tough market, right? And so we're looking at all these houses and blah blah blah, and we kind of want to be within like 30 minutes drive time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that was because we were doing, a conventional loan. I talked to one of our builder reps, and we were able to get something in Sheridan. And previously, we were looking on the southeast side of Indianapolis, right, all the way down into Southport. Yeah, and we ended up buying in Sheridan. It's the same drive time to their work, and it's 4.5% interest rate because it's new construction, and they're doing deals. It's USDA, so it was 0% down, and they were getting like $4,000 in closing costs as well, assistance from the builder. And so, like, it's the totally opposite side of the city.
But most buyers wouldn't be able to fathom, let's look at that.
Correct.
Without you saying this is why, or here, maybe this. I have buyers I would really like them to do the same reason for build. The interest rates, they're giving away, all kinds of stuff now, especially at the end of the year.
You know how big of it? So that purchase price ended up being $310 for the same mortgage payment they were looking at in the low twos.
Yeah, and a nicer house.
And a nicer house, new construction, warranties, all this stuff.
Everything's warranted. Yeah, you're not going to be doing a lot to the house for a while. Yeah, I think new build's a very good place to go right now. Westfield, we see, is always 50% new builds. And one of the things you're talking about was looking at Westfield. I broke out the new builds and the resales completely, and I did both sections. And new builds are more negotiable. Like, they're 98% list to sale ratio, and the new builds for November were 96. So,
well, they're also trying to hit end of year.
Yeah, it's like buying a car at the end of the, all that kind of stuff.
They got inventory they got to offload, and they have numbers they got to hit. A lot of these places have shareholders. Like they do have, P&Ls, profit and loss statements that they have to do, and the performance of the company, and like all of that stuff matters.
And talking about why buyers should use an agent for many, many reasons, but we can negotiate and look back. I keep an email folder of new builds, and I just keep, every time I get an email, I put it in there. So when I get a person who wants to live or work or in an area and a house, I go back and I see what did they offer, and I'll ask for what they offered last month or something. Yeah. Sometimes they'll do that, but so many buyers think they need to sit down and sign online the price that's right there. Yeah. And they don't need
Not
to.
Right now.
No, not at all. And you can get other extras. You have to ask, and you have to know what's available. But anyway.
So the market, though, it's been a little interesting, right? So it's been a little slow. That slow, I would actually say, is just normal, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a normal market.
I do too.
I've been saying it for a long time.
But people are dropping prices too rapidly. The amount of showings you're getting on a house is just...
It's scary.
Yeah. You're like... one a week, one every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And houses are still selling.
Depending on the price point, it's not even depending on the price point. Everything is just kind of...
There's just not a lot of buyers out there right now, but they're still intentional. Buyers. They're 100% intentional.
Because it's December and it's cold and nobody's just out there kicking tires in December. So those 1 to 5 showings you get are your buyers. Yeah. You just have to be a good show when they show up. And I've been going into houses, and we talk about this all the time, that are not ready to be shown.
Yep, 100%. We're talking about all that. So, like, I see bad photos.
Oh, photos drive me crazy.
I just don't know how I still live in a world with this profession where people are taking their own photos. I like that just boggles my mind.
Well, cell phones or whatever, but it's not that expensive to get your pictures done.
Expensive
and you know what? You are being paid a commission by that seller to promote the house and do marketing. Like, bite the bullet and pay the $300, $250, $200. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Do that for your seller,
and
because you're being paid to do this marketing, and to just go, oh, I'll put that in my pocket and I'll use my phone.
Well, because there's this idea, it's like, oh, it's good enough. Well, like, I'm not looking for good enough. Like, I need it to do great
I don't
because
think it's
I
not
can
good
tell you
enough.
what happens to the house if you don't do it the right way. You're gonna sit. You're just gonna sit.
You're going to lose your seller money. I mean, sometimes
100%.
people get lucky because it's the unicorn that everybody's looking for. But we were talking to.
But even then, like, let's say it's that unicorn. If you would have gotten professional photos, how many more people
Correct.
would have come in to push the price up?
Correct.
Right?
Well, that's why it's important. But we were talking about, we were watching the pictures. You guys can't see, but they're flipping through the featured listings of the office.
The whole company, not just the office.
Yeah. But the thing is what I see that I have a hard time with is the drone shots.
Yeah.
Because the drone shots come in, and I'll see people who have 7 drone shots where the camera just goes up, 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 up. And I'm looking at, in the first shot, 4 houses. Which house is it? Because that is a great picture to use, so I can see your backyard. I can see how it connects.
But that needs to be like picture 27.
Depending on how nice the lot is, but I need to know which one it is. And your photographer, or you, if you have to do your own pictures, can Photoshop in a red line and show me exactly which house I'm looking at.
Yes.
That is to me worthless drone pictures if I don't know which house I'm looking at. And how, I mean, I'm kind of discerning and figure it out, but
I see drone
aren't gonna
photos on
figure it out.
houses that it's like, this is a third of an acre. Why do I have a drone photo of this thing? You know, I don't know. I just think it's all of that. You know, I'm looking at houses right now. You know, they're not clean. And I get it. Like, I'm an agent, man. Like, you know, I have clients at times who, you know, they're going through a lot, and you know, not everything presents well. And like, I'm understanding, like, you know, we live in these houses and all that stuff, but you're on the market, and you know, the goal is to sell your house, which means, like, you know, there's just certain stuff we need to do to put it in its best light anytime somebody walks through it. And
If they want top dollar.
If they want top
and
dollar.
I think most people do.
And so it's just really interesting, kind of that stuff. And like, if you look at the market, like we were talking about, the Fishers market from 4 to 500, man, you are just a dime a dozen right now. You know, so I'm looking at like 30 days average on market for like Fishers. If you're in the 4 to 500 range, average days on market is actually 60. Right.
And I have buyers in that market. And
Yeah, me too.
I am seeing very off list price to me. I don't know why, but that price point also seems to have a lot of overpriced properties because I'm seeing them all and I'm comparing them. And so that's one thing about, you know, people who want feedback as a listing agent. If you're not showing a lot in that price point, back in the day, you probably didn't do this, but back in the day, we actually had what they called like tours every Tuesday where we went and looked at all of,
First couple of years.
But also the other thing is when you were going to list a house at 123 Main Street in the neighborhood of Oz or whatever,
You get other people's brokers' opinions.
you went into every house that was on the market competing against you to see what was going to be.
Well, that became hard during COVID because it'd be like, it's going to be gone by the
It
time
went
you're on
away.
the market.
I don't know if anybody still does that. I would love to know if anybody's still doing that. But it was just a way of getting to know what your direct competition is. Because I'm saying, if I'm going to leave you feedback, I just saw all of your competition. Believe me, I've seen them all.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
You are looking like this compared to them.
So because of all the changes, though, think about this. I kind of can't do that because I don't have a buyer I'm representing to go in that house in the first place. I mean, the only way you could do it is if I call the agent.
You always said it's a preview,
Yeah.
and they can stay. You keep the dogs, whatever.
I just need to put eyeballs on
previewing
it.
for 5 minutes for a new listing I'm putting up, and it was
That is your competition.
It was so right, but it was so normal.
Yeah.
But the broker tours but that was before the internet was really, really big. Am I that old? But no, I've only been doing it 16 years. But
So the internet's been a big deal since like '97.
But I don't know why we had to do the broker tours were such a big deal. And now, I mean, broker opens aren't even as big anymore.
No.
Like, I can see it.
What do you think about Brokers Open? Okay, so we've decided that this episode is like the Festivus of our episodes, and this is the airing of grievances. We'll put the Festivus poll up later. No, are you a Seinfeld person? You don't even know what I'm talking about?
I do know.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Skip
All my Seinfeld fans would love
Skip
it.
watched Seinfeld every night.
I love Seinfeld. I love Seinfeld. I have an entire fantasy football league that I'm in where it's around Seinfeld, and all of the names have to be based off of
That's
something in
hilarious.
Seinfeld.
Do you know what
It's
I have?
amazing.
I have an acrylic case of the Puffy shirt.
Really?
Well, he did. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have the script of Seinfeld.
I love Seinfeld. But you know what I've never really watched? Friends. Everybody I know my age is like, oh, have you seen this Friends episode? And I'm like, no, I have not.
Yeah.
So
I watched it a little bit here and there.
So, anyways, what were we gonna say? I've totally lost track off
Brokers
of.
Open.
Oh, Brokers Open. That's all right. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, it's my ADD kicking in.
I get invitations.
Well, but that's okay. So let's start there. You get invitations, and then what?
I don't go.
There we go.
Unless it's a really good friend and they're needing help, like, or an agent. Not really good friend, but if literally in the Brokers Open it says why they're having it, like, we are not getting showings. I can't figure it out. The price seems right. We're not getting any feedback that says anything damaging. Can you guys please come and see my Brokers Open? Those I will go to. That's a reason to have a Brokers Open. I need help from you guys. I need to figure out what's going on. That's a great Brokers Open. But just to have
You don't
them,
think? But I guess that's where I struggle because like any house that I have sitting, I know what's going on with it.
that's what I'm saying. If you don't, like,
Yeah.
you just can't figure it out. Like, what's going on?
How many houses do you think sell through a Brokers Open? Like, I'm not talking HGTV crap.
No, I don't
right?
think
Like,
it's not that. Did it sell from the Brokers Open? That's why I'm saying the only Brokers Open I believe in is the one where you're looking for help after 10, 15, 20 agents come through and fill out that form. I've done this. The form is what, and then you sit down with all the forms with your seller.
and you give them the feedback.
It
I
eventually
get that.
helps you sell that house because of all the feedback, and maybe you sold this to the seller. But I have 20 agents now saying you are way overpriced.
But that's not what I
that's how it
see.
sells it.
I see a Brokers Open when a house goes on the market.
That's what I'm saying. I don't go to those.
And
I don't get it.
I don't either, actually. I've never quite understood it. I do know on occasion you'll sell a house that way, same as an open house, right? And so it's more about visibility, like, hey, I had people in here. They're going to go tell other people about it, all of which I can do a variety of other ways, for the record.
I'm already seeing what I need to see.
Yeah, is it an antiquated idea that agents do just to create validity to a seller that they're doing something? Because I don't think it moves the meter anymore because of the way technology is these.
Well,
And I don't know. That's my perception.
But look at what happened in 2020. We couldn't do anything. 21 and 22, the houses flew off the, handle. They did not have to have Brokers Opens. In 23, I didn't see them for 2 years, 3 years. 2023 at the end of 23 and all of 2024, I'm seeing them now. So why do they have them? Because they're sitting on the market.
Yeah.
They never were being done for 3 years.
So what houses do you usually see? I have an opinion on this, but I'm just curious. I mean, you've been doing this longer than me, but what houses do you usually see a Brokers Open on?
I don't even pay attention.
Expensive houses? Luxury houses?
Well, the luxury houses is an interesting, that's a whole different gamut, because that's usually like 4 to 6 Twilight wine and cheese and come into the house.
Why?
I don't know.
Personal opinion, it's just marketing for an agent. That, look, I have an expensive house on the market. Because I don't see them selling.
Yeah. Those are the only kind I see on the more expensive ones. It's actually a
I also
party.
think this is a side thing. This isn't about me being in recovery or anything. I've always been worried about, like out of college, like I worked at, when I was in college, I worked at Yogi's, right? Like there's a bar down in Bloomington, right? And, I've waited tables and stuff when I was like younger. I understand liquor license and all of that stuff. I'd be scared to death to be serving alcohol at something like that. The amount of liability you're bringing onto yourself.
But also, you don't have a liquor license to serve alcohol.
I know.
So are you having a party? You're having a party just like anybody else, but you're having a party on the seller's house, and is the seller going to be held responsible for anything that happens because they were drinking in your house?
It's technically both. It would be the agent. It would be the brokerage on top of the, so it'd be the, and the seller. It'd be all three.
I can remember, and I'm not going to.
But God forbid anything, I don't.
I know.
Yeah,
I can remember one. I don't even want to talk about whose it was or where it was, but I remember it was a flat out party. It turned into a flat out party in these people's house, and I'm like,
let's do that again. I'm in favor of that.
What would those people think if they knew what really was going on in their house? Not that it was like a rage or anything, but it was just a party.
Yeah.
Like there was like 30 agents in there drinking. They're all sitting on their couches and I'm like, this is not selling the house.
That's so bad.
So like you said, what was the reason for it? The agent? I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
I don't know.
I mean, I think there's ways to, we market homes, right? Like that's what I do for a living, right? And it's just, so it does market your home. Is there an ROI on it, right? So is there a return on investment of doing it? That's what's crazy. It's like, all right, so I'll go do a broker's open. I'm going to go drop $1,000 to do that, but I won't get professional photography.
Yeah.
Like,
well, maybe they would. Well, here's the other thing I always did back when we thought they worked. I put an open house sign out front too, because if I'm going to have agents coming through and I'm going to be there and I'm going to be standing there, any buyer can come through too.
That's fair.
And that
that's
was a
idea.
good time to do. I would always be both, and I would market it as an open house. So I did have buyers coming through, so I always had two reasons.
It's just always interesting, this whole broker's open thing. Because especially certain houses, like you've put a lot of time into comping that house. If it's a more expensive home and it's a little bit more complicated to comp, or you've even had an appraisal done on it, and then you just get agents come in and like they haven't done that legwork, and they're gonna be like, it's overpriced, or it's underpriced, or
they don't even buy in that. They don't have buyers in that price point, especially the more expensive ones.
You're like, this is $1.5 million, and you're like, I don't really like the chandelier. I'm like, man, this is like a $1.5 million house. Like, what are we doing?
Well,
but I don't see a broker's open on like a 250, 325. Like, I just don't see that anymore. Like when I was new, I would see more of that because we did do tours, right? I don't see that anymore. We don't do the tours. Mainly because they weren't well attended for the most part. And then on top of that, so the ones that I do see, like, I don't know, just I'd love to have an agent come on and kind of walk me through it.
I do remember the reasoning for the tours this just came back to me was mostly new agents to get to know the market.
So for me as a new agent, it helped me learn neighborhoods that maybe I didn't know. It helped me understand pricing. Like, so even though like I had learned how to comp a home and everything, like it's different when like you're actually walking in a house and you already have the set price that somebody's come up with, and you can kind of like look at how everything, I don't know, like how the cake was made, I guess.
Yeah, well, it was an educational process, but then I feel that now we've asked 8 homes to open up to teach agents something about how to price, how to get to know.
And the seller's like,
are we going to explain that to our seller why they're really coming through?
Yeah.
Probably not. Hey, we're going to show all the agents your house. But
especially now that it's become less common too.
And that's what open houses are. When people say, do you have an open house? Stats have always said 5% of houses sell at an open house. The reason they're there is to get buyers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what most new agents do, which is a great way. That's how I always started my business, that and FSBOs. But
it does help visibility, but the odds that it sells at an open house is just very, very low.
Did you see something? This is all like.
But I do think open houses, for the record, do serve a purpose, and I do think we should always have
Today's market, it seems to be, because they're coming through. They haven't signed that BCA with all the. They don't want to.
Yeah.
They just want to get started and looking at houses.
Compensation agreement.
Yes.
I try to word out all of our acronyms because we're so used to them.
There was an open house. I saw this on Facebook, and they had, I think they put out like 28 signs. And
that's awesome.
They got a lot of negative. So as
Why?
an agent, because the feedback they were getting was it was on Facebook. You put way all these signs. What like
I'd be like, guess what? You saw that I have an open house.
Right. It's marketing. But yeah, they got so.
Oh, since we're airing grievances.
Fun. 28 signs, not fun.
Airing grievances. This may be my favorite ever. We need to do this regularly. I've told our managing.
We're not going to run out today.
When I was new, the thing that drives me the craziest is when I see people put sign writers. So for anybody who's not an agent, a sign writer is the tiny little sign that goes above your sign, right? And you're technically only allowed to have 2 sign writers. That's it.
No,
right?
no, 1. Tucker's rule's 1.
Yeah, I mean,
can't do on top of each other.
I believe we'd have to look into it. I don't want to step on my toes here, but my understanding was always 2. But anyways, and they put them slightly off. Because it's like, if it's slightly off, it'll catch your attention better. I'm like, it looks sloppy and stupid.
I used to do that. But
you
now,
did?
I used to. I used to
Shelly
I know,
did that.
but when
I think so poorly of you now. I'm
I know.
just kidding.
When I did two, though, I would center the ends of each so that it stuck out like this. So like open house and my name.
So it had wings?
So it had T. It had a T over the T.
Oh my gosh.
But nowadays, I'm so anal about it getting where it's supposed to go. I take a black marker and I mark the sign writers. So, and then I mark all my signs where they need to go so I can just go. And
Yeah.
I don't have to tell. Oh, nope. Nope.
I will say, so what I have seen like all you're trying to do is grab attention, right, from somebody driving by. For me, like I look at it and I'm like, that looks sloppy and not professional. That's a personal opinion.
They just throw it up there and walk away.
Average consumer, for the record, never notices it. This is just me, you know. Average
That's
consumer.
just ADHD or whatever it's called.
Yeah. It's my ADD or my OCD, whatever you want to call it. Like,
OCD.
Yeah, I've got isms for sure, but like the average consumer is just kind of like, yeah, it's an open house. They could give a shit, right? But for me, I'm like, oh gosh, why did we do that? But what I have seen that I do like is like I've seen somebody put like little pinwheels attached to the top of it, or I've seen streamers. I'm like, that works. That draws attention and looks professional, I guess, if that makes sense.
I'm going to get you
or
a bunch
balloons.
of pinwheels for Christmas.
Yeah, they'll be in the same place that you leave them the next year. So
Balloons, yeah, but that's only for open houses. They don't stay up past 2 days.
And then you're polluting the environment.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. I don't know. It's just a bunch of little things like that. Brokers Open, all this stuff. We're talking about photos. I don't know. I just wish sometimes we would talk about this stuff more. I feel like you and I do a really good job about it. I just wish there was more transparency sometimes with our industry, and like, you know, we're out here trying to explain our value, and like I've never had that problem. I've never been questioned on it. And like we do things sometimes to like add value for the sake of adding value that adds no value, right? It's like action for the sake of action. So I don't know. It's just some stuff like that like, you know, and I don't disapprove of anybody doing brokers opens or anything like that. You know, if you have a seller who wants to do it, like, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a brokers open, you know, like I do whatever my client would like for me to do.
Well, we were just trying to say,
I just want to educate people.
Why, who does them, and do you go, all that kind of stuff. You know, don't want to be misrepresentative of what we said, like somebody we had on the podcast a couple of days or last week.
Yeah, it was just taken out of context.
It was horrible.
Yeah,
and then he got so much love, from everybody.
Yeah, because I mean, you got 99.9% understood the messaging, and 1%, you know, kind of took offense to it, and
then it made him look like a king.
But you also don't want to minimize the 1%, right? So like you do, I mean, I was proud of, you know, he addressed it and everything, and it's like, hey, like this is what I really meant. Yeah. What else we got? I'm sure you got things. I've got a whole slew of things. What's another one that I've told you? I don't like. I don't even know if we have time for this, quite honestly. I don't like agents who flip houses.
And you talked about this.
I did talk about this.
This is a big one for you. Not big, maybe middle.
First of all, I'm in a ton of houses, and as somebody who sees, I've done work myself on houses, blah, blah, blah. Craftsmanship matters, finish work matters, and I can tell when finish work isn't done to par. It looks, and then I start to wonder, like, what else? And I'll be like, I teach my clients that, right? I'm like, look for the finish work, and that will lead the way, right? Those are the breadcrumbs. You know, if you have quarter round down, but you didn't caulk the brad nail holes and then paint over it, like that takes like no time to do it. It's
what you can see. What you can't see starts to come into mind. I have buyers, and I hear this on a regular basis, will not do open houses because they're like, you see things we don't even know what to look for. And that's what our training is, and just getting to know it. But I do flip houses. I haven't done it recently, past couple of years, because the pricing has just gone out of control.
It's too high.
But as a real estate agent, I'm not going to put a product out there that I'm not darn sure is a great product, because I'm a real estate agent. So for me, if you are a realtor, you better be doing really good at it, because you're putting yourself out there as a real estate agent saying, I know how to do this. That's my opinion. You're saying, I know how to make a house updated and do that and everything. I do an inspection when I buy it, and I do an inspection when I'm done, to make sure that nothing irks me more. This might be right as high as you thinking about this. Nothing irks me more than to do an inspection after an agent just flipped the house that should have done those 2 inspections, and find mold in the crawl space, water in the crawl space, mold in the attic, or the
Roof
furnace
issues,
the
whatever.
furnace
Yeah.
isn't working correctly. I'm like, you just gave me a buyer who's now has to ask you for these things to be fixed. That's what you should have been doing in those 3 months you were doing it.
So, I want to clarify too. So, I don't have a problem with flippers. I don't have a problem with agents who flip. The problem I have with this particular subset, I don't like agents. Am I even allowed to say that legally? I don't know. Okay. I'm not a fan of
because I don't
agents
like agents
who
you can't stop
buy houses off market to flip. Like, if it's on the market and you're going to buy it and you're going to flip it, I actually totally support that. I do think the product you put out there 100% matters. I only have a problem with it if it's purchased off market to flip, because if it's on market, there's been another agent involved, there's been education involved, all these other things. When there's people out there who are sending mailers and doing all this other stuff and blah, 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 and you are a licensed agent, this is a personal opinion. I don't mean this to be disparaging. It's just an opinion. I feel like that's a betrayal of public trust, of the knowledge that I have. And I'm representing my own, the argument is like I have a fiduciary responsibility, but it would be only to myself because I'm my own client.
Correct.
But I feel like this is also a public trust position, and I have an education level, and I don't feel like I should be allowed to go take advantage of possibly people who do not have the same level of knowledge of the industry or the market that I do, without another professional with that education involved, if that makes sense.
Isn't there
Literally only for off-market
But
properties.
isn't
I'm
there
not a
a
fan of.
law rule? I know there's documents you have to sign that the seller, if they didn't know the value of their home and you came in and lowballed them, let's say it's worth $300 and you paid them $250, isn't there a law against that? Like, you can't do that, but people do it. That's what you're saying. You don't like seeing that, but I don't think you're legally allowed to do that unless you literally give them the comps and say your house is worth $300. Will you take $250? And then they say yes, but you can't just say I'll give you $250. You can't. I don't know.
Yes, you can.
We need to have a lawyer come in here
Because you're
and
disclosing.
ask all these questions. What can we do?
Well, so you're going to disclose that you're an agent with an interest, with a vested interest in this thing, blah blah blah, and like you're going to convince this person, like, but in this condition, it's going to be this and it's going to be that, and like I'm going to help you save and all this blah blah blah. I don't know. Go get another agent to see like if there's a way around that and you could actually get more money. That's just a personal opinion.
Not everybody does that.
Not everybody does
and
that.
I would love anybody who's listening to this, of all these things we've been saying, if you know something different or you don't agree, we would love to hear your side of it. And
even like wholesale, we talk about this. I support wholesaling.
Yeah, and that's
because
how I
that
get
means
mine.
there's another person involved helping determine a value.
Yeah.
That has an
And those
education
sellers have
level on the
agreed,
market.
knowing that that's the price that they've already agreed to by somebody else.
Correct.
So,
I don't know. It is what it is. I don't know. I'm just over here ranting and raving at this point.
Well, let's
I think it's
get
the
to
cold weather, so
yeah, let's get to the
fighting.
stats. And last night's driving was horrible.
Oh man, that was bad.
It was real bad. Why they hadn't salted yet, I don't know. But there were horrible
And it was like no snow on the ground, and it was just ice.
black ice.
Everywhere.
Yeah, black ice. I slid a couple of times. I was coming from Fishers to Carmel, and I slid a couple of times into the what do you call it? The intersection, because I didn't prepare like you should. But I didn't know how bad it was when I was first doing that, and I saw wrecks. And I know people were saying it's taking them 3 hours to get home when it takes 30 minutes. This is Indiana. Like, I see that in South Carolina. I mean, Raquel remembers us getting stuck. I mean,
that was in Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky. They closed down. Like, we had to stop and get into a hotel because
they literally pulled us out of the side of the road, get off the road, and we're like, we're fine.
Yeah, the police were just
We're
making
fine.
you get up.
Yeah.
But here, I don't expect that last night. That was horrible. But anyway.
Well, real quick on that. So, like, I was at 146 in front of Lock Haven. There's like a slight hill there. I was going east, and there's a semi next to me. I was first to the light, and I have a truck. I have a V8 truck with like it's rear wheel drive, nothing in the bed, and like my back, I couldn't even go from the light because it was so slick, and then my back end is like swinging into this stupid semi, and, like. And I'm like, I have to put this in 4-wheel drive, and there's like literally no snow on the
Right.
ground right now. you
Yeah,
know?
because no salt. I
Yeah.
really don't understand that. But anyway, let's do our stats.
Let's do stats.
And we did November, so let's just look at what happened last month. So in Carmel, currently right now we do have 128 homes active in Carmel, which is low, but it is December. Currently sitting in Carmel is 119 pending, so there's almost the same amount as active as pending right now. So 119 pending, there's ready to close. That's going to be what to watch for. Solds in the past month was 103 total in 30 days. And the average days on market were 32, and the median was 14. So that's been staying this steady number for a long time. List to sale ratio for November was 98% in Carmel. So we are not seeing, you do have a little bit of wiggle room sometimes. Westfield, I split out new builds versus resale because I just wanted to. So in Westfield, the new builds, 111 are currently active. There's 108 resales. There's currently new builds, 59 pending, but there's 80 resale homes, which is good because I know it's difficult to sell houses if your house is at 2020 or more in Westfield. And then of the solds and new builds, there were 58 and there were 59 resales, so that's staying steady. The thing I found interesting was, not interesting, but as we talk about this, is the new builds are causing the average days on market to be skewed. So that's one of the reasons I pulled these out. So in the new builds, it was 43 average, 13 median, but for the resales, it was 38. So it's really not that different. So 38 and 12. And I always thought it was skewed a little bit more, but it's not. But the one thing about it we talked earlier about is the new builds, the average list to sale ratio in November was 96%. So new builds are negotiable, more than resales, which was sitting at 98%. In Zionsville, 51 are currently active. Zionsville's just a sleepy little town. I loved it. I grew up there. But, it's just very calm market going on over there. 42 are currently pending. There are 26 sold in November. And then average days on market is 21 and median 17. And in November, the average list to sale ratio in Zionsville was 100%.
Wow.
It's just such a different market over there
It
because
is.
it's limited availability.
What's crazy too is like, what do you say average days on market is?
It's 21 and median 17, so it's pretty average.
So you're sitting for 3
Normal.
weeks still getting list.
Yeah, because there's nothing out there for sale. There's 51 currently active and all price points.
But the problem with that number is you could do a price reduction, sell at that new list price, and then that's considered 100% though.
I know.
That's the hard
We
thing.
haven't figured out how to really
Yeah.
show all that because that's one thing I'll talk real quick about then. So we had our market address from the higher ups, Jim Litton and everybody at FC Tucker. They showed that in 2022 there was a 3.5% price appreciation. 2023, same 3.5% price appreciation. So we're just kind of going up a little bit. Month supply in 2022 and 2023 of November, averaging around 2.5. Sellers market still, but the thing what we're talking about is watching these price changes. And so of those price changes, where are we ending up at 100% or 98%? In December of 23, there were 16. So only 16. In July of 24, there were 37 price changes. In September of 24, there were 42. So that July through September, we had a lot of price changes compared to what we had been seeing for 3 years. But in November of this year, there's 25. So we weren't seeing any price changes for a couple of years, and they're back. So that gets back to where we would really have to go into some really deep dive to figure out what was the
What
list
that looks
ratio of that first list price versus. But if you're only looking at 16 price drops out of, let's just say there's currently 128 active, it's a small amount, but they're
they're
still
out there.
happening.
And the problem is it's always going to be 16. It's just which week are 16 of those 128s
Right, and
dropping a price.
that was monthly. the
Because
numbers.
I don't drop a price weekly,
No.
and neither do you, right?
No.
So, I don't know. For Fishers, for November, I currently have 80 on the market, 84 pended during November. I have 114 closed. Average days on market is 33. But I just think it's price point specific. Like I said, like I literally last week ran 400 to 500K in Fishers, and it's 60 days average on market. Now, don't get that number confused though, right? Like it's an average. So I had
compared
stuff
to your 33,
Right.
60 in that price point. So agents need to pay attention and sellers need to understand your price point can be totally different from everything around you.
correct. So like there's stuff selling in 4 and 5 and 6 days, and there's stuff sitting for 120, 100. I saw something for like 214 days on the market, and when that subset is up in the 60s, like what's the subset actually? Then once you exclude that, what is average days on market? Like you got to think it's actually lower than
Right.
for the other ones, right?
Right,
'Cause
that-
this is adding such a significant
Well,
chunk to
our
that.
stats are general.
Yeah.
When we have Brad on, he'll go deep dive.
Yeah, he's gonna be a lot. He's gonna give us so much information.
But it's good information.
It is. Noblesville, I have 60 on the market, 80 pended in November, and 115 closed. So I mean, Fishers and Noblesville are tracking pretty similar to each other. Noblesville is also 30 days on market.
You have half as much in Fishers and Noblesville than Carmel and Westfield. Way less, a third.
Of what,
That's
my
crazy.
actives?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yep, I only have
You're like
60.
Zionsville. And I always talk about the no actives in Zionsville, how low this market inventory is. So Noblesville.
But think about this,
Fishers
but
are low.
is it because it's moving? Because, so you had 51 in Zionsville. I have 60 in Noblesville. How many closed?
26 out of the 51.
I had 115.
That's interesting.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
So it's
because
eating up
it's
the
moving.
market. Yeah, they're eating up the market. The share is not getting as much houses coming on the market as selling. And is it December? We always say, is it seasonal? I do think we're going to go lower and lower until February. I just don't see market increasing until February. I think we're done, really, for people who, unless they're desperate to put houses on the market. There's this next 3 weeks and first couple weeks of January just isn't a good time if you really don't have to, in my opinion.
Houses are still selling. You know, it's great.
It
I'm
is.
working with buyers.
Less competition as a seller. That's what
Yeah.
I always say if you look at the other way.
All my buyers are very patient. You know, nobody's, I got some people who are like first time homeowners and like we're up against a lease ending in February or March or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. So I got some of that stuff. But, for the most part, I've got people I've been working with for 6 months that have just become really patient because they know that the market allows that right now.
I know.
And I love that
I
personally.
know.
So.
We're looking at a lot of houses for buyers now because they know that something will come on maybe next week or the next week after that they will like better or has more of what they're looking for. 21 and 2022, they'd give up the bedroom. They would give up the yard they wanted. They would give up whatever if it just had 4 walls.
And
Not anymore.
No, we're not doing that. I'm curious if anybody who's listening has stuff they want to complain about. I love being able to look at both sides of things, right? And I'd be curious to see what other people out there have issues with.
Well, again, we always say, if you want to get on this show and just talk to us about your deep dive whatever, we would
What's your pet peeve? Yeah.
Welcome it, or your thoughts and ideas for the next year, what you see, or what you're seeing in your specific business that's scary, uncertain, good, bad. That would be awesome. We'd love to just have everybody's opinions out there.
I want to know what they think of the beard. That's what I want to know.
Well, the full outfit today, Mr. Lumberjack.
That's right. If you're listening on audio alone, yeah,
He's
I'm a
got
vibe.
He's got his
flannel
and his
I got a
beard going.
beard that I thought was going to be gone 2 days ago.
Yes.
And then my wife's like, no, why don't you keep it till the end of the year? And I was like, yeah, because I don't like it. She's like, but I do. And I'm married, so I still have a beard.
Good boy.
It is what it is. It's
All
the only
right.
hair I have. Like I have like this section of white, and as I was looking at,
Well,
it, I
you
was like,
could get it all white and play Santa Claus
well, like,
at a mall.
but my head is like salt and pepper. So I'm like, oh yeah, I used to have brown hair. It's like a sad reminder of
So
days
did we
gone
all.
by.
Well,
Anyways, if anybody wants to reach out to us, please do. So next week we got Josh Delmagany coming on. He's always fun. We're gonna have Brad Coughing hopefully after that, so we can go over like year-end stats. Maybe we can get Shelly Specchio on. We'll see if we can get that at the end of the year. Other than that, I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122.
and Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realtor Group, 317-201-2601. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.